Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Wytpod. My name is Harshit, and I'm the Director of Business Alliances at Wytlabs. We are a digital agency specializing in SaaS and e-commerce SEO. And I've got Nick Jain with me today. He's the CEO at IdeaScale, and it's a leading innovation management platform. So, big welcome to you, Nick. Happy to have you with me today.
Hey, thank you so much for having me here today. I'm really pleased to be.
Good, buddy. Can you tell us about your journey from working at top tier private equity and hedge funds to becoming the CEO of IdeaScale?
Sure. So my career journey is a bit circuitous. My background in education was mathematics and physics, but I ultimately knew that I wanted to help run a company. And so the quickest way to do that was to go through what I would call the private equity consulting journey. So I spent a couple of years in places like McKinsey and Bain Capital, then went to did my MBA at Harvard Business School, then went into hedge funds, and then finally I got an opportunity to co-run a private equity owned $100 million revenue trucking company, which again, I knew nothing about trucking at that point, but that was the launch pad for me to finally move into an executive role in companies. And since then, I have either run or co-run companies in trucking, men's fashion, and now software, which I'm very excited about. And I continue to love running and building companies.
Yeah, no, that's a way to diverse industry. Now because you have successfully run and turned around businesses in logistic apparel and in fact tech. What are the common challenges that you have faced in these diverse industry altogether, and how did you overcome them?
Sure. So I think at least for me, there's three challenges. Number one is learning about the industry because as I've walked into trucking or men's fashion or software, I was not an expert or even a novice in any of those industries. So I had to very quickly ramp up on the content expertise. Secondly, or the content or domain expertise. The second is figuring out how the business works. Different businesses make money different ways, and regardless of whether you're selling burgers or software, it's really important to understand the mechanics a business. You can almost, my background's in physics, and you can think of it as like the laws of the universe as it applies to that business. SaaS is very different than trucking, than burgers, than men's fashion. And it's important to understand those unit economics. And then thirdly is the difficulty or challenge of actually implementing the changes necessary to make a business successful. And some of that is the cultural changes of getting a group of people working together a long time to behave differently. Some of it is just being accepted as the new guy. You may show up with the CEO title, but at the end of the day, you're only as effective as the people and organization around you allow you to be. So you have to spend a lot of time, or it has certainly been challenging for me to build trust in a short period of time and demonstrate to people that, hey, I'm new here, but I know what I'm doing and this will be good for everyone.
That makes sense. All right. Now, since you joined IdeaScale, you've improved the rule of 40 performance from 20% to 50% in just 6 months. Can you share the strategies that you implemented to achieve this remarkable growth?
Sure. It took about 9 or 10 months. So I don't want to give myself too credit rather than six, but I think there were two things, or there were really three things that we did, which was an explicit three-phase plan. First was managing our costs and bringing our margin up really effectively. So we went through a thorough cost of every piece of software that we made and said, okay, is this actually essential? Is this good for the business? Is this positive ROI? If it wasn't, we reduced it. Some of that was just shutting stuff down. Other times it was shifting to more effective things. My favorite example of this is we were paying $150,000 a year for Salesforce. We realized we could switch to HubSpot for $40,000 a year. That's immediately saving a bunch of money. But more importantly, we also felt HubSpot was a better piece of software for our use case. So that's a win, save money and move to better investment. So that was phase one, reducing costs and improving margin. Phase two is really focusing on product quality. So the most important metric for any B2B SaaS company is what your retention rate is. So I think one of the things that the company hadn't been doing as effectively in the past was focusing on building a really high quality product attached with really high quality services that will encourage customers to use. So in phase two, we really focused on product quality. We doubled the size of our bugs and QA team. We implemented a cultural shift where we're going to release fewer features, but much, much higher quality. The product is going to be higher quality. Our bug count reduced something by 80% during phase two, and it's perpetually remained lower and gotten progressively better. And then phase three was investing behind growth. So when I joined, I think the company had in total 3 FTEs in sales and 0 in marketing. Today, we have about 13 or 14 across sales and marketing. And we've also expanded to Mexico, Brazil, South Africa, India, Europe. Am I missing anything? Yeah. And Japan as well. And that was phase three, investing behind growth, picking which battles we wanted to fight, which countries we were likely to succeed in, and going aggressively behind them, both with personnel hires as well as with marketing hires and marketing efforts beyond even hiring.
In fact, you increased the sales pipeline by 300% within this 9 months duration. I would love to understand like what specific strategies really worked and contributed to this success.
Sure. So I think that there were two or three things that we focused on within marketing specifically. Number one is increasing the total number of inbound opportunities. So we spent a lot of time getting really good at SEO. One of the things we're really proud of at IdeaScale is we are by far the dominant SEO force in our industry. So if you search for the word information management software, any variant of that in any major language, it could be Chinese, Japanese, English, French, Spanish, we're number one. We beat out the local competitors and certainly all the English language competitors globally. So we increased the amount of traffic coming to us, and we made it very easy for them to book time with sales or to learn about the product and get into the front end of the sales pipeline. That's number one. Number two is when I joined again, we really had no marketing efforts. And so we actually increased the amount of outbound marketing efforts. So that includes things such as monthly webinars, once a year live events, outbound email, all the basic levels of things that we just didn't have the organization. We established them. And we've been pretty successful at establishing that outbound pipeline. And then thirdly is the geographic expansion. When I joined, we were primarily a North America focused organization. And we did some analysis and realized that there's other countries where organizations really need software like ours that our industry has been ineffective or inattentive to. And so we actually looked at these countries and said, look, we think that, for example, Spanish-speaking Latin America is a really exciting market that other Western companies are ignoring, and we should invest behind those markets. So we went after the markets where we saw clear demand and saw clear ability to win. And that obviously makes it a lot easier to increase sales pipeline when you're going where there's demand and low supply, and you are the supply.
That's amazing, man. Now, SEO is, and I'm sure like HubSpot gonna love this because you're using inbound and
yeah, HubSpot is not paying me. I talk about them as an example. I've implemented their 3 different organizations. I absolutely love them. They're easy to use and they're reasonably cost effective for any mid-sized organization.
Yeah. All right. I would love to know what specific SEO strategies that you incorporated that just posted this brilliant outcome because I have seen the traffic growth, the organic traffic growth in the last 2 years basically skyrocketed. So please disclose your winning strategies.
Disclose my winning strategy. Yeah. Isn't that supposed to be a trade secret? I think that there were 2 or 3 things we did. Number one is before we started going putting money or resources into SEO reset, we actually thought and did some analysis saying, is this an area of marketing we can win? Mm-hmm. And if we hadn't thought we could win, we would just not have done SEO. But we did the analysis and said, this is something we can win. It's an underinvested field by our peer group, and we think we have the expertise to win. So that was number one. We did some analysis. Should we do SEO before we actually did any SEO? That was number one. Number two is rather than just begin doing SEO, once we decided we were going to do it, we went through all of the keywords and did some fairly complex analysis on the ROI by keyword. By ROI, I mean is how expensive is it to win this keyword in terms of content that we need to write, in terms of competitors who are competing for the same keyword, in terms of paid competition for this keyword, and how much benefit will we get, how much volume that is relevant to us in terms of sales generating opportunities will generate. And so we went through tens of thousands of keywords doing this mathematical ROI analysis, word by word. And then we only focused on the ones that were extremely high ROI. So if the ROI wasn't 10x or 1,000%, we just didn't do it. So there's a whole bunch of keywords that our competitors are focusing on, they're winning on, but those are the ones that are really hard to win or very low volume. We just don't compete against that. We like winning where it's easy, with a lot of benefit. That was number two. And number three is we had an employee solely dedicated to doing SEO. So he had no other focuses for about 1.5 years. I personally managed this employee, mentored him, as well as we equipped him with the tools that he needed to succeed. So if he said he needed SEMrush or ChatGPT Advanced or whatever other tools he needed, we got them because we realized that the benefit to winning SEO would be hundreds of thousands of dollars of revenue, which is a very good investment for us to invest behind. We weren't cheap. Once we decided we were going to go behind SEO, we made sure he was equipped with all the tools and mentorship he needed to succeed. And that's, by the way, our mentality for any marketing effort. If we're going to do it, we do it well and we don't half-ass the attempt.
Nick, tell me one more thing, because you do have multiple language web pages on your site serving different countries altogether. How do you go about it? You using some of the localization strategies, modifying the content, or is it like a mere translation, which might work? What do you
Sure.
suggest?
We only started doing non-English languages starting in December. So we're about 6 months into that journey. It's been extraordinarily successful. About 55% of my web traffic now is non-English, up from 0% in December, which is nice. But we did, for the most part, there's three different elements. Number one, most of it was just direct translations using traditional machine translation services. That was phase one. Phase
Mhm.
two was specifically for certain countries, namely Japan. We did add localization where we have a local partner who has an entirely separate localized website, is running localized webinars, etc. That is native language level marketing. And then thirdly, specific to Spanish speaking Latin America, which has been a breakout success for us, we've actually hired local language speakers and marketers in that area. In Spanish speaking countries, we have a dedicated Spanish speaking customer support personnel. We have a dedicated sales rep. And as of, I think, yesterday, now we also have a dedicated local language marketer that will be doing localized content for
Oh,
Spanish language market.
it's actually amazing. Like you did it in stages, and plus whatever market is much more profitable, you're investing more. And
Exactly. If we don't think a market is, we have no ego about admitting that our hypotheses were wrong. We're scientists here. We have a hypothesis. We run an experiment. If the experiment demonstrates early success, we double down or 10x on it. If it fails, it's no one's fault. No one gets in trouble. No one gets fired. So we have a very experiment-oriented culture where we 10x the wins and we move on with our losses, and no one gets in trouble for it because that's part of our company culture.
that's amazing. Now, despite your industry-wide layoffs in tech, you have grown basically your employee base, right? How do you manage to attract and retain talent during?
Yeah, firstly, I do want to pause and say that's something I'm firstly really proud of. Our industry's had the tech industry's on average laid off about 30% of their staff over the last 2.5 years. During that time, we've grown our headcount by 30%. So I'm really proud of the fact that our employees get to sleep easy at night, knowing that they're not going to lose their jobs, that they can support their families, their kids, their husbands, their wives. It's a really good feeling for us, and I'm sure for my employees as well. I think in terms of hiring, that's really easy, right? When you're a company not doing layoffs and you're stable and you're showing that you have positive last reviews, things like that, that's easy. On the retention side, it's been much more complex because the world has changed in terms of tech hiring. And I think that the types of tech companies that got all the news media and the unicorn status, in some cases, we're not well-run companies, we're not well-run organizations. On the retention side, we've really focused on hiring people that understand what a well-run company is and don't just go for the glitz of the media buzz that many technology companies have really focused on for the last decade or so. So on the retention side, we've been very mindful of trying to focus on keeping the employees that we think get the vision that, hey, IdeaScale is not just your media saturated tech company, but it's actually well-run business. And that run business means we're going to be around a year from now, we're going to be around 5 years from now, we're going to be around 10 years from now. And yeah, we may not be unicorn status tomorrow, but we have an eye on that ball and we're going to be working very hard towards that, but methodically and sustainably.
Right, now switching back to marketing again, how have you adopted your marketing strategies to basically basically align with the evolving digital landscape? Yeah, consumer behavior is again like a big aspect of it.
Can you rephrase the question? I want to make sure I address it correctly.
Yeah, how have you adopted your marketing strategies to align with the evolving digital landscape and consumer behavior?
Sure. So within each element of our marketing strategy, which again could be our SEO element, it could be our webinars element or webinar/events element, I should call it, or email marketing. A few things. Number one is when we notice that we are weakening in an area. Sorry, number one is we have analytics set up across all of this to understand, hey, how are we doing? Are we getting better? Are we getting worse? Has something changed? If our analytics dashboard suggests we've gotten worse, we go refocus on it. If we're doing fine, then we can actually pull back and let it run on autopilot. That's number one. We just have a lot of analytics set up to monitor our success very quantitatively and very much in real time. Second is things change in marketing, right? So a silly example is 15 years ago, social media marketing just didn't matter for businesses. It was very much a B2C enterprise. Today, it's important for businesses to have even B2B businesses to have a significant social media presence, especially on LinkedIn. Over the past year and a half, or a year and a half ago, we basically had no LinkedIn presence. Today, we are number 2 in LinkedIn presence amongst our peer group. And we're really focusing on that. That's an area that we are I think we still have a ways to go on being best in class, but we're focusing on that because we realized that was deficiency that we need to correct because a lot of our customers are coming through us from specifically LinkedIn social media channel. And then thirdly is making use of whatever new tools emerge, whether it be the chat GPTs, whether it be automated social media tools, whether it be a tool that I was recently experimenting personally with just over the last few days, is our tools that automatically chop video content into social media bite-sized chunks. So you don't need to have a human editor, 30-second clips, then edit them to make them social media friendly. So that's something that those are new AI video tools that have emerged that really over the past couple of months, they become commercial quality, and we started adopting them really aggressively as of 2 days ago. So whatever new tech emerges, we adopt it really quickly in order to implement it for marketing.
Now, Nick, tell me one more thing. How do you go about building a marketing content piece, like a new page on your site? What's a typical process that you follow so that that page basically resonates really well with your target audience and the purpose that it is intended to serve?
Yeah. So I'll say we have three principles at IdeaScale that apply both to marketing as well as the organization. Number one, we do things that are high quality. So we don't see any junk content. So if you see our blog entries, for example, none of them are thinly veiled marketing for IdeaScale. Each of our blog entries is actually high quality content for the end user and doesn't even mention the name IdeaScale, right? It's not trying to sell you anything. It's just saying, if you want to learn about best innovation culture, you want to read IdeaScale's blog, not the Wikipedia entry, not the Reddit, not the McKinsey entry. It's a really high quality anything, right, on our website. If it's not high quality, it doesn't show up. Not just in our website and our product and the way we run our finance, HR, whatever it is. Number two, we are decentralized as an organization. So even though I'm the CEO and I de facto act as our chief marketing officer, the actual actions that we take in marketing are coming from each of our individual marketers who have a lot of latitude to act independently. So if a junior marketer sitting in Mexico or India or the United States says, hey, we think we need a page on X or we need a webinar on Y topic, they can do it. They don't need any approvals to do, which creates a lot of organic latitude. So if somebody sees a hole that is in our marketing strategy, they can go plug it and they don't need to go through any bureaucracy to make it happen. Number three is experimentation, right? It's something I alluded to earlier on this call, but we tried out a lot of things with the full advanced knowledge that a lot of them are going to fail or be ineffective. And no one gets in trouble, which means we have a culture here of, hey, if somebody runs a marketing initiative, let's say a webinar, and that webinar failed because it only got 10 attendees, no one's in trouble for that because we know that other webinars will have hundreds of attendees or other marketing efforts, maybe non-webinar related marketing efforts, will be extraordinarily successful. So that creates a lot of culture where people will try out a lot of cool things and most of them will fail. 90% of stuff will fail, but the 10% that succeeds are home runs for us.
Now, Nick, any specific challenges or hurdles that you feel currently that is hampering or your inbound strategies?
Yeah, so it's actually funny. We spend zero on paid digital advertising right now, or near zero, I should say. We spend a very modest amount on LinkedIn paid advertising, but we spend zero on Google, for example. If I compare that to my competitors, if you search, my competitors are spending a pretty large amount of money on at least Google advertising, as far as I can tell. So it's actually frustrating at times when we have really high quality content and somebody's paid a lot of money to Google to put a sponsored ad on top, which is literally just a sponsored ad trying to sell their product, which ranks ahead of high quality content that the end user is searching for. We understand why our competitors do it. It's obviously effective for them to get a paid sponsored ad, number one. We understand why Google does this because this is entirely Google's business model that they charge you for rankings. But it is frustrating when somebody is paying to actually direct end users away from the content that they are searching for, which is, hey, what is the best innovation management process? How do you run a fishbone diagram? Or how do you run an innovation webinar? How do you manage cultural changes? We put out really good content. And it's a challenge when somebody is directing people away from that in sometimes a disingenuous way.
Nick, tell me one more thing, because there's a shift in trend now. People have started using generative AI instead of just merely performing a regular Google search. AI overviews also came into picture. Tons of other generative AI. So there's a shift on how people make search, right? And it's gonna lot of analysis out there and predictions that in the next couple of years, there will be like a significant shift in the market share towards that technology, and multiple platforms are going to get their share. So are there any specific strategies that you are integrating with your existing SEO strategies to make sure that your content is bit future proof and it incorporates
Sure.
both search engine optimization as well as Geo is the term, generative engine optimization. So yeah, please.
Yeah, that's a new term, by the way. I need to learn that, generative engine optimization. So a few things. Number one is you're right that the trend is going to shift to more kind of new forms of search in the generative AI world or the AI assistant world. But firstly, it's important to note that shift is happening much faster on the consumer side than on the business side. Business buyers are still, for the most part, using traditional search methods, and over time they will shift, right? But that shift is slower. So we understand we still want to focus on winning the traditional game. Second is for generative AI, at least as far as I know, it's not, and again, this is an area now I have to go to learn a little bit about Geo now, because you just introduced a new term to me. But from my understanding of generative AI, and again, I have a bit of data science and AI background, is generative AI is still relying on all the data that sits on the traditional internet in order to inform its search query. So if you ask generative AI, hey, help me develop innovation software, it's going to go look at Wikipedia and every other blog entry on the web and research and try and compile that information. And actually, the fun fact is because we've done so well traditionally, if you go ask ChatGPT, hey, tell us the top 3 innovation software, the pros and cons, IdeaScale will always be listed. ChatGPT will say, IdeaScale is the fastest to implement, it's cheapest to implement, and their customer service rocks. Because we are, and which are things all business users care about. And that's because it's gone to Gartner, it's gone to Wikipedia, it's gone to our blogs and said, hey, these guys are really good at what they do. And so we're actually fine if someone's asking ChatGPT or Gemini to do search about us, because we're still going to do really well on it.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, if you're specifically optimizing for Google, I think because Google.
No, we optimize for being there. We optimize for being the best in our space, right? Our SEO strategy was we want to put out good content. If Google or Bing or ChatGPT or Gemini want to find it, they will find it, because if they're looking for the best content, which that's what the generative AI search engines do, they're going to find us because we are the best content, full stop.
All right, now let's coming to the platform side. I would love to know what are the specific USPs of IdeaScale that set apart from its competitors.
Sorry, what does USP mean?
It's a unique selling proposition.
Sure. So IdeaScale, just to summarize very quickly, is like a CRM for ideas. If you put your customer data in HubSpot or your financial data in QuickBooks or NetSuite, you put your idea data into IdeaScale. I think that there's 3 areas where we really differentiate ourselves versus our competitors or versus anybody in this space. And number 1 is ease of setup. You can set, as a multi-billion-dollar organization with tens of thousands of employees, you can set up IdeaScale in less than 5 minutes. You can be good to go. You can launch right now. You can literally click on the Get Started free button on our website, and you can be up and running within 5 minutes. That's very rare for enterprise software. None of our competitors can boast that level of like ease of setup and ease of launch. And obviously, you can do all sorts of fancy settings in the background, but you can be commercially up and running in 5 minutes, less than 5 minutes. Number 2 is our customer support. So I provide 24/7, 365 live human tech support with an average response time of around 24 seconds. So if the chatbot or the Cade knowledge articles can't answer your question within a few seconds, on average, and within 24 seconds, you're going to be connected to a real human being who will help you through chat. And so we're very excited about that. And that's something our customers love, that, hey, they can talk to an expert human being on this topic. They don't have to go through hours and multiple menus of chatbots. Number 3 is security. So we are by far the most secure enterprise solution in our market. So for example, we are FedRAMP qualified. That's extremely difficult to get US government qualification, which allows us to work with any US government agency, but is also something increasing that a lot of corporations are asking for, as well as foreign governments, because it says that we have a high level of technological security and personnel security. A silly example of that is, I'm the CEO of the company. You could steal my phone and laptop and you still cannot compromise my systems, nor can you access my customers' data. Because that's a human level of security that's implemented, that there's no single point of failure. I do not have all the passwords by design. And that's also true on the technological side. It's really hard to hack our systems. And if you are a large government agency, if you're a large corporation, you care about security and compliance, you probably want to come to IdeaScale, because we are by far best in class in this.
What are the new emerging trends in your space that you foresee, and how exactly is the platform preparing to address them?
Sure. So our space is still, we've been around 14 years, but the space is still reasonably nascent. I would say that most of the time when I'm going to a customer or a prospect, they're still using paper Post-it notes or Excel. So the emerging trend is people are still making the switch away from paper or Excel to our technology in the same way that people were switching away from Rolodexes to Salesforce in the early 1990s. We're about 30 years behind. Our industry is about 30 years behind the CRM industry. So we're still benefiting from a long tailwind of greenfield opportunities. The second is that I think that there's a cultural shift within all organizations that great ideas and great innovations don't just come from your C-suite or your executives, they can come from a broader organization. So 30 or 40 years ago, it was the top 3 or 4 guys or gals within an organization that really mattered. Today, increasing companies are realizing, hey, the junior employee working in a warehouse may have a great innovation to how to make that warehouse more efficient. And so there's a increasing cultural shift that is happening to adopt these sort of technologies and as well as make them more open. So one of the things that's really funny, a lot of our customers make their communities closed where they restrict them to either just their employees or just subsets of employees. And whereas I actually push for our customers to make them open, let your customers participate in your communities, let your shareholders participate. That's how we run our own internal community. You can go comment on IdeaScale's product. You can say good things, bad things. We want to hear it, and we will react to those ideas. And that's a shift, that the openness that is happening, that people want more and more open versions of the software, which we're excited about because we've always advocated for it, but that's been a cultural shift that's taken some time. And number 3 is, I think, is the desire for more integrations. Increasingly, software is not, and this is not unique to us, but once upon a time, people thought of software as just, we have Excel, we have Word, we have Gmail, whatever your software suite is, they are independent. Today, everyone wants those software suites to talk to each other. So we are receiving increasing demands that, hey, does your software integrate with Monday.com for project management, or Teams for collaboration, or Jira for ticketing? Whatever it is, people are pushing for our software to integrate with other pieces of software that are part of their corporate software suite. And so that's an increasingly an effort for us.
So do you have those integration pages like on your website, or?
Yeah, so we have integrations with Power BI, some Teams, some Slack integrations, where there's a list of all the integrations we do on our website, but we are actually rebuilding some of these integrations as we speak. So for example, for Microsoft Teams, we have a light integration, but we think that a more fulsome integration is needed. So that's actually a project we began pretty aggressively earlier this week. It's in the design stages and planning stages right now, where we realized we need a full integration where someone can interact almost natively within Microsoft Teams with our software, and same with Slack, which will be immediately after Teams.
Now, Nick, we have talked a lot about the marketing strategies that are really working well for your customer acquisition side of things for you. I would love to understand like what specific programs and strategies that you have in place from a customer retention angle altogether, like what's really working.
Yeah. Sure. I'd say there's probably 3 things that we're doing to retain customers. By the way, customer retention is, as I said earlier in this call, our most important metric. Our net retention rate is something every employee, our junior, we share it on every town hall, whether the number goes up or down, everyone knows it and they're proud. So there's 3 things that we're doing. Number 1 is on the product side, we're really focusing on features that drive engagement and value for the end user. So if there's features or buttons that don't create value for the end user, we start slashing them or removing them, because we want a simple, streamlined product that is really focused on engagement-driven features, because we are basically a social platform and we want to drive engagement. That's number 1. Number 2 is the core product, technology, product quality. So one of the things that a lot of tech companies do is they focus on a lot of features so they can market it and their sales people talk about it, but they don't focus on how good is your core technology. Does it work fast? Is it built on a scalable system? Is it bug free? So we've invested in a lot of this, and something that you can't really tell in market. You can't really advertise marketing or bug free because everyone assumes that's the case. But once customers come in the door and they realize, wait, the software just doesn't break, that's something that's very different than an experience you'll get with a lot of other SMB software companies. So that's number 2, really focusing on the core product quality in a way that sometimes is invisible. And number 3 is the customer support element, right? So every customer has a dedicated CSM for focusing on broader business issues that'll help them use the software more effectively. But that person's only working during normal business hours. If they can't access that person, they need technical support at midnight on Christmas Eve. They have that live 24/7, 365 human tech support. And that's something we're very proud of, because at some point you want to talk to a human being, and we guarantee you will always be able to talk to a human being really fast. Customers love that from a retention point of view.
All right, Nick. And now we're coming to an end, and I would love to have a quick rapid fire with you. Are you ready for that?
Okay. Yes. Okay.
If you could use only one social media platform for the rest of what would it be and why?
TikTok. It's fun. It's just fun. It's entertaining. Keeps me happy.
Okay, interesting. What's the most bizarre marketing tactic you have ever seen work successfully?
People, when I was in the shoe industry, shoe companies would pay people to stand in front of Nike stores during new hot shoe releases with billboards and just walking around with physical billboards. And this is in 2023. So not digital at all in a digital age.
What's the weirdest place you have ever come up with a brilliant idea?
So I launched our social media strategy while having a beer at pizza, waiting for my wife, and while she was getting ready in a hotel in Amsterdam. I was sitting down in the bar, having a pizza, having a beer, and I built our entire LinkedIn profile and scheduled like a year's worth of marketing.
What habit holds you back the most?
I think I probably don't plan my day as effectively as I could in the morning. I should sit down and figure out here's the 3 or 4 things I should do. I am pretty ineffective at doing that, unfortunately, which means my day is less efficient than it could be.
Okay. Any productivity software that you use internally or like for your own personal use or like for the team management as well?
Internally, the company uses Monday, Asana, Slack, as well as UTrack for like formal workflow stuff. Personally, I use all those when I'm interacting with the relevant teams, such as our technology team or marketing team. I'm probably less effective at doing that personal work management in terms of what are Nick's to-dos for today. I'm trying to figure out something literally this week. Hey, what do I need to do to actually make my day more organized personally?
Okay. What subject do you find to be most fascinating?
This is going to be very nerdy, but I'm a theoretical mathematician by training. I love it. I still read academic theoretical math papers, totally useless in real life, but deeply interested to understand what are the genius mathematicians of the world doing. It's fun to read about really strange things in math.
Okay, now coming to a very last question. What's your last Google search, or if you're a Gen AI fan, like what was your last prompt?
My last prompt was, how do I figure out how to get a rental license for real estate in Philadelphia? It was done using Claude yesterday, because getting a rental license for real estate is extremely complex in Philadelphia, and the FAQ pages would not explain it.
Thank you so
Claude
much.
was very successful, by the way, doing it. It made it stupid and simple enough that I could understand.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Nick. Thank you so much for investing time, sharing your experiences about the company. I really enjoyed my time here. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me, Harshit. It was a pleasure.
Let me just hit job. Yes.